broken baker, where crimes are baked in every show. Mysteries rise and truth unfolding. Ready, set, it's time to go. We say it's time to go. Whistling clues, battering news, mixing stories, solving the lies. In this kitchen, secrets are broken, with a spark in our eyes. In the broken baker's kitchen, the secrets crumble like sunrise. We'll sift the clues to find the news, with a spark in our eyes. The broken rise. Broken rise. Welcome to the broken baker. Get ready. Let's go.
I'm Jimmy. How y'all doing?
The most important people in this case that everybody seems to have forgotten in this room is the jury. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and both sides take a pregnant pause and think about the jury.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Back again with another Diddy lawsuit. This time we have a named accuser, Ashley Parham, who files against Sean Combs, Christina Coram, Sean Peace, John Doe's 1, 2, 3, and Jane Doe. This one, if you were here last night when I read the 6 lawsuits filed yesterday in New York and thought, nah, probably a little bit too much for me, I would rather have fair warning, trigger warning, every warning, don't watch this. Let's just say, like Marissa said when she sent it to me, this is worse than all the other ones. And I agree. This won't be one of the fun streams. This will be a little more, little less bakery, little more proper YouTuber. Whatever that means. But let's get to it. Saying hi to Lexi and Panilla is Bree Fleck and Helen from Holland. More Baker, yes, Kim. But I'm not sure you're saying yes when we're done. Hey, Sammy. And Pixie, you were here last night. And Brokenhearted. And Show Life. They are having Wadir of the jury. So, no, they're probably not showing it, I think. That title made me think Diddy was suing himself, which he probably should. Yeah, I should have put a sorry. This can't be worse than Leilani Simone case. Is that the dumpster thing? I didn't watch that. I don't like it. Yeah. Hey, Debbie. How much swearing am I going to do in this one? Well, probably not that much, but you're probably going to make sure your kid and colleagues can't hear this one. He is very, very much puke emoji. And trust me, I am an old, black-hearted, cold-hearted person. And even I feel this is a little too much. Hey, Harmony and Sue, Peter A., Zachariah. But there's no time like the present, so fair warnings have been given. Tamale, still on replay from this morning. We'll come back to this right after. Well, again, all the fair warnings, please consider if you are easily triggered and all of that, just so no one has to write in the comments, why didn't you warn me? Because this case involves sexual assault, battery, rape, sexual abuse, false imprisonment, and kidnapping. Defendant Diddy has been sued by countless individuals for crimes similar to the ones enumerated in this complaint. Defendant Diddy is currently a federal inmate awaiting criminal trial for crimes similar to the ones enumerated in this complaint. Defendant KK is an employee of Defendant Diddy, often referred to by Defendant Diddy as his right-hand woman. Defendant Diddy's predatory behavior was constant and was well known by several individuals, including Defendant Diddy's employees, staff, friends, family, and associates. In fact, Defendant Diddy's sons are being sued for engaging in the same type of deviant behavior as their father, as pled in a Los Angeles Superior Court filing. Case number, if anyone wants to go look it up. Defendant Diddy was able to effectuate his crimes and evade capture and prosecution for his crimes for almost 30 years due to his position of power and influence in the entertainment industry. Defendant Diddy exploited his position and his relationship with powerful individuals to force sexual acts through exploitation, fear, manipulation, physical threats, emotional abuse, intimidation, and retaliation. Had any of the previous victims of Defendant Diddy been taken seriously, or had any of the arbiters like Defendant KK, Sean, Doe's 1, 2, 3, or Jane Doe reported Defendant Diddy's action to law enforcement, Defendant Diddy's illegal and unfathomable behavior could have been prevented. Instead, Defendant Diddy was able to rain his abuse and terrorism on countless victims for over 30 years. Additionally, had Defendant Diddy's numerous business partners and associates not ignored Defendant Diddy's deviant behavior, Defendant Diddy would have been unable to continue his pattern of abuse. Sorry, I just got a notification, which always happens just as I go live. I think, Marissa, can you do that? Or Jess, can you do that? I think you have the power to do it when you're a mod. Let's pin the warning to the top. Let's get back to it. Defendant Diddy would have been unable to continue his pattern of abuse over such a long period of time. As alleged herein, Defendant Diddy abused his position of power in the entertainment industry to garner loyalty and trust from the public at large and law enforcement. Remember that one. While instilling fear and intimidation in the hearts of his voluminous victims, allegations against Defendant Diddy has been disregarded for decades, therefore creating a failure to protect victims like the plaintiff named herein. Remember when I read this morning that they were suing Marcy and Marriott hotels, and I said, kind of like could seem a little bit money grabby. In this case, in this motion, there are allegations that the police swept this under the rug. We'll get to that. But one thing is Marriott's hotel maybe have known something about people getting too drunk and partying. Another thing if it's true what she alleges happened with the police in this case. Just keep that one in mind. Unlike most victims of Defendant Diddy who were employees, sex workers, or individuals seeking out defendant to help launch their careers, plaintiff does not fall into any of these categories. Plaintiff met defendant Diddy due to happenstance and still ended up being brutally victimized in a similar manner as described by the others who have preceded her filings and others who surely will follow after her filing. Due to the defendant's agreement to participate in a corrupt enterprise, plaintiff and countless other victims has been immeasurably and permanently harmed. Plaintiffs alleges as follows upon personal knowledge as to themselves and their own acts and experience, and as to all other matters upon information and belief, including investigation conducted by their attorneys. Plaintiff Ashley Parham is an individual who resides in and is domiciled in California. Sean Combs, we know who he is. Defendant Christina Coram is an individual who, upon information and belief, resides and is domiciled in California. Defendant Sean Pierce is an individual in California. Defendant John Doe 123 are individuals who, upon information and belief, resides in California, and defendant Jane Doe are an individual who believes to be living in California. Then we have the jurisdiction, blah, 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 because it's in California, so California had the jurisdiction. So let's go to factual allegation common to all counts. Plaintiff met defendant Sean, that's not Sean Combs, it's the defendant called Sean, in February 2018 after an altercation with another man at a bar, and defendant Sean came to plaintiff's rescue. While outside the bar with friends and other patrons, defendant Sean FaceTime video called defendant Diddy and was showing people defendant Diddy in the video on his phone, attempting to impress the people with his famous friend. Defendant Shane then showed plaintiff defendant Diddy on his video call, which plaintiff ignored, stating she was not impressed by him knowing Diddy because he believed Diddy had something to do with the red rum of Tupac Shakur. Visible in the FaceTime call were Diddy and some of his children, including his son Christian and Quincy. It appeared from the plaintiff's perspective, Diddy was having a get-together at his home during the time of the FaceTime call with Shane. Defendant Diddy heard plaintiff's statement and made a remark that plaintiff would pay for her statement regarding Tupac, an overall dismissal of Diddy. On March 23, 2018, defendant Shane, why can't I say that name, invited plaintiff over to his house to assist him with his cancer medication because he stated he was weak and unable to open his medication. Upon plaintiff's arrival, defendant Shane informed plaintiff that he wanted to give her a ride in his new car. New car, write that behind your ears as well. Plaintiff and defendant Shane left his residence for a brief period and then returned. Once they returned, defendant Shane left the door to his apartment partially open and stated that the door was ajar because there was an issue with the door where it couldn't close properly. Defendant Shane was renting an apartment on the lower floor of a home in Orinda, California. Defendant Shane had a separate entrance into his residence that led to the backyard of the home. The home also had a main entrance on Loma Vista Drive. Defendant Shane rented the home from a woman who lived upstairs portion of the home and had 2 dogs who resided with her. Plaintiff and defendant Shane then began to watch a movie, and Shane offered her a glass of water, which he retrieved and brought back to plaintiff. Approximately 10 minutes after plaintiff and defendant Shane returned from their drive, defendant Diddy entered Shane's residence. Diddy entered the home in a grand, ready-to-party manner. His grandiose entrance was so loud that the dog upstairs began barking. Diddy did not enter the home through the backyard entrance, but instead through the main entrance. This is not a sexual stream. This is not. This is. We're getting to it in 2 seconds, and let's just say all the warnings have been given. All the warnings, hopefully, has been followed. Along with Diddy was his bodyguard, Defendant Doe 1, a woman who plaintiff later identified as Defendant KK, another woman, small, skinny build, early 30s with blonde, middle-length hair, who plaintiff have still been unable to identify, Jane Doe, Defendant Doe 2, who upon information and belief is a friend of Defendant Shane and Diddy's driver, Doe 3, who remained outside and in his vehicle during the duration of plaintiff's assault. Plaintiff believe Shane invited her over to set her up to be assaulted by Diddy because of the statement she made about Diddy a month prior. Upon Diddy's arrival, he immediately began to antagonize the plaintiff, stating that she thought she would never see him in person, pay for her statements about Tupac during the voice call, and that defendant Diddy caught plaintiff. Plaintiff was in shock as she never believed that she would ever see or meet Diddy in real life, let alone in a small apartment rented by Shane. Diddy then began advancing towards the plaintiff, towards where the plaintiff was sitting on Shane's bed with a knife and held it to the right side of her face and threatened to give her a Glasgow smile in retaliation to her previous statements on the video call. For those of you who are not familiar with how people smile in Glasgow, envision Heath Ledger's The Joker. That's a Glasgow smile, where you get a little cut. And we don't just do it on the top. No, it's all the way through. So, don't go to Glasgow. KK told Diddy that she did not think giving plaintiff a Glasgow smile would be advantageous to their potential clients who they could sell plaintiff for smecks to. KK then made a threat to plaintiff that they could ship her off anywhere in the world and that she would never see her family or anyone she knew again. It is a very wide smile. It's from ear to ear almost. Shane then partially undressed plaintiff. Then Diddy removed the remainder of plaintiff's clothing, removing the knife from her face and then retrieving a bottle of liquid from a large fanny pack. Diddy then squirted a bottle of liquid on plaintiff, which placed her in a fear that she was being squirted with a chemical substance like acid. Plaintiff soon realized the substance was an oil lubricant. Plaintiff was squirted with this liquid substance over the entirety of her naked body. Remember in the lawsuits I read last night, they were talking about lacing baby oil with GHB. I don't know if this has anything to do with that. Well, Kiki, these aren't so nice streams. I'm sorry. Yeah, fanny packs, don't do that. KK was then told by defendant Diddy to insert what looked like a syringe from a sterile packaging into plaintiff's vajayjay. KK did as told and then told Diddy that she was unable to use the IOD, and I don't know what that means, because it had prematurely been released from its packaging. Diddy, upset by this, took the syringe from KK and tried inserting it in plaintiff's vajayjay instead. KK and Diddy began to argue as KK continued to advise Diddy that since the IUD had been prematurely released from its packaging, it it was no way they could. There was no way they could insert it into plaintiff's vajayjay effectively. After some time, Diddy heeded the advice of KK and removed the syringe from plaintiff's vajayjay and handed it to KK. It's a version of thank you, Jedi Jess. Well, we're going to fix that in another way later. KK and Jane Doe then exited defendant Shane's residence, leaving plaintiff alone with defendants Diddy, Shane, and Doe's 1 and 2. Diddy then picked up a television remote that was near plaintiff and violently inserted it into plaintiff's vajayjay. Diddy, while violently raping plaintiff with a television remote, told plaintiff that her life was in his hands and that if he wanted, he could take her and she would never be seen again. Plaintiff began hysterically crying from the threats by Diddy, along with the pain of being violently, vajayjayly raped by Diddy with the television remote, as well as the lingering pain from the ordeal with the IUD syringe insertion. Diddy then instructed Shane to turn plaintiff on her stomach, seemingly tired of hearing the plaintiff's blood-curdling cries. Shane then grabbed plaintiff by her abdomen and hips and turned plaintiff on her stomach. Diddy then instructed Shane to put a pillow over her head because he didn't want to see her face or hear her cries, and instructed Shane to number 2 grape plaintiff. Shane did as he was told by Diddy and began to number 2 grape plaintiff. These are really hard to read on YouTube. Diddy then violently raped plaintiff number 2 after Shane. Defendant Doe 2 then joined defendants Diddy and Shane, taking a turn number 2 raping plaintiff. Immediately after defendant Doe 2 raped plaintiff, he exited Shane's residence. Diddy then instructed defendant Doe 1 to also grape plaintiff. Instead of immediately graping plaintiff, defendant Doe 1 doused plaintiff with more oil lubricant and then jumped on top of plaintiff's naked and oiled body, treating it like a slip and slide and knocking the wind out of plaintiff due to his enormous size. Defendant Doe 1 then caught himself from sliding over plaintiff's oil body and off the bed. He then began graping plaintiff vajayjayly. While defendant Doe 1 was graping plaintiff, defendant Diddy sat in a chair near the bed and began self-pleasuring while recording plaintiff's grape by defendant Doe 1. Another party's phone fell on the bed near plaintiff. Plaintiff then attempted to grab the phone, but it slipped out of her hands and onto the floor due to the oil lubricant that had been doused all over her person by defendant Diddy and Doe 1. Diddy began laughing at plaintiff's attempt to grab the phone. Throughout this violent gangbang-style grape, defendant Diddy made constant belittling remarks to plaintiff, including that he owned her now. Plaintiff's body was becoming more and more limp over the course of the violent grape until eventually she had no control over her body, nor could she move her body. When defendant Doe 1 finished graping plaintiff, defendant KK entered the room to examine the condition of plaintiff, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. KK examined plaintiff to see if she needed assistance and was about to give plaintiff an IV fluid. Plaintiff cannot be certain if she did or did not receive such intravenous intervention. KK then opened a different bag, different than the one Diddy removed the oil from. where plaintiff observed several medicine bottles, IV fluid bags, and other unidentifiable powder-like drugs. KK then removed a pill from one of the medicine bottles and gave it to Diddy. Diddy then inserted the pill into plaintiff's mouth and down her throat to where plaintiff had no choice but to ingest the unknown pill. So if they couldn't fix the potential baby problems one way, they did it probably the other way. Diddy, Shane, KK, and Doe 1 then exited the residence to the backyard where they smoked MJ and cigarettes. Plaintiff remained in almost lifelike state in Defendant Shane's bedroom until she finally regained her bodily functions. Plaintiff then began looking for her clothes and her purse that contained her car keys and cell phone, but could not discover them in the room or anywhere in the apartment. Plaintiff was only able to find a t-shirt on the floor, which she put on to cover her naked body. Plaintiff also observed a black condom wrapper on the floor of the bedroom, which she assumed was used by one of the defendants, most likely Diddy, during the rape. Plaintiff then grabbed a knife from the kitchen and headed to the backyard where the defendants were smoking, as that was the only way to exit the premise onto the street. Plaintiff concealed the knife on her left side as she exited the apartment to the backyard area. Upon coming to the exit of the home, which led to the backyard, plaintiff was met by Defendant Doe 1, who was standing at the door between the residence and the backyard. By the time plaintiff was able to compose herself and come to the backyard, Defendant KK was no longer in the backyard but upstairs on the patio with Defendant Jane Doe. Doe 1 allowed plaintiff to walk to the backyard where Defendant Shane and Diddy were still smoking. Doe 1 did not see the knife that plaintiff concealed on her left side, as it was obstructed by the oversized t-shirt plaintiff was wearing. Plaintiff observed Diddy still partially nude from the assault, while Shane and Doe 1 had on their clothing. Shane then left to the upstairs portion of the patio balcony where KK and Jane Doe was already situated. Plaintiff then sat down on a makeshift seat in the backyard when Diddy noticed her presence and remarked that he was surprised she was able to walk because he had given her enough drugs to take out a horse. Yeah, Phoebe Bird, I'm pretty sure that's a Plan B pill as well. And Luna, yeah, her body is in shock, and I bet you they laced that glass of water Shane gave her 10 minutes before Diddy arrived. That was probably laced as well with a rehypnol or something. Plaintiff then asked Diddy what he gave her, and he laughed and did not provide a response. Diddy then made further comments to plaintiff in a jovial, friendly manner, asking her why they hadn't partied together before, because it was so much fun and he hadn't had any ass that tight in a while. Doe 1 then quipped at Diddy that he probably hadn't had any ass that tight because he's not used to having number 2 smacks with women, which Diddy and Doe 1 laughed at. Plaintiff then told Diddy she did not party with him and she did not enjoy partying with him and that he raped her. Diddy did not like plaintiff's response to his lighthearted commentary and offered plaintiff money and instructed plaintiff to say that the violent rape was consensual and that plaintiff was a sex worker. Plaintiff became enraged and yelled at Diddy that her rape was not consensual, she was not a sex worker, and she refused to take any money from him and would tell the police that he had raped her. Diddy then told plaintiff no one would ever believe she had been raped by him, and if she did tell anyone, such that they would harm her family. Oh, tell anyone such, then they would harm her family, I think they mean. There's a lot of spelling mistakes in this. Doe 1 then showed plaintiff his phone, which looked as if it was outside of plaintiff's estranged sister's residence, as she could see her sister sitting on the couch and her sister's spouse on the balcony. It looked as if someone was outside the residence streaming this video to Defendant Doe's phone. Plaintiff, while rattled by what she was seeing on Doe 1's phone, was still angry about being gang raped and was not complying with Diddy's request to take the money being offered to say the rape was consensual. Diddy then called his mother in an effort to further convince plaintiff not to report her result. Diddy's mother yelled at plaintiff to not hurt her son. Plaintiff told Diddy's mother that her son had violently raped plaintiff. Diddy's mother, seemingly unfazed by the statement, then continued her demands with plaintiff to take the money being offered and not report the rape to law enforcement. Mother of the Year material. Diddy then made further threats that he had gotten off from bigger crimes than this and referred to Tupac again, further antagonizing plaintiff. Doe 1 then turned to Diddy and pulled his pew-pew on him, asking him to repeat what he said in reference to Tupac. I don't get this part. As the two of them was exchanging words, plaintiff went behind Doe 1, where he seemingly began to protect plaintiff. Doe 1 then advanced to defend Diddy's, questioning him over the comments he made about Tupac. During this commotion, a neighbor directly across the street came outside and peered into the backyard and asked what all the commotion was about. Doe 1 then pointed the pew-pew at the neighbor and instructed him to mind his business and return to his residence. Doe 1 then turned the pew-pew back on Diddy. Plaintiff, not far behind Doe 1, tried to grab Doe 1's hand that had the pew-pew. The pew-pew went off and hit a hill behind defendant Shane's residence. Diddy then ran up the back stone stairs near the hill in the backyard towards where KK, Shane, and Jane Doe were. Plaintiff charged towards Diddy, moving the concealed knife from her left hand to her right hand and in pursuit of defendant Diddy. This is a little murky. I don't understand this one. Plaintiff then pushed Diddy from behind while on the stone stairs outside, causing him to fall with his back to plaintiff. Plaintiff then raised the knife in a rage from the events just transpired and with the intent of driving the knife into Diddy's back when he turned around and began pleading for his life. Plaintiff, shocked now to see Diddy acting as a victim, had a moment of clarity and then turned and ran down the outdoor stone staircase back out to the backyard to escape. Diddy then chased plaintiff down the stairs and attempted to push her, but she was already at the bottom of the stairs and gained her footing and wielded the knife at Diddy, grazing his abdomen. Hearing the commotion, KK and Jane Doe emerged, and KK then began administering first aid to Diddy for the injuries caused by plaintiff. Plaintiff tried to make a quick dash for the exit, but it was thwarted by defendant Doe 1. After a period of time, plaintiff was able to abscond from defendant Doe 1 due to the first aid commotion with Diddy and was able to run down the street. Once plaintiff made it onto the street, she began yelling loudly for someone to call the popo. Doe 1, who had now caught up with plaintiff, advised plaintiff that he was an undercover cop. To this day, plaintiff is unsure of the truth or falsity of this statement. Hey, Gianna. I felt bad for the mother because Diddy put her house up for potential bail, but no more. No, she seems like a nice mother of the year as well. The same neighbor then again emerged from his residence asking what was transpiring. Just as plaintiff was attempting to answer, pew-pew shots began being fired in plaintiff's direction. Plaintiff fled to a car near where the neighbor was, also taking cover, and lost sight of defendant Doe 1. Plaintiff then heard an SUV screeching and speeding, leaving the residence. Plaintiff then entered the home of the neighbor, who informed her that he had already called the popo. Plaintiff informed the neighbor that it was Sean Combs who had raped her and shot at them, but the neighbor was unaware who defendant Diddy was. Shortly thereafter, a sheriff from the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department arrived at the neighbor's home. Plaintiff told the sheriff she had been violently gang raped by the defendant Diddy and others, and that she did not have her clothes, phone, purse, car keys, and cell phone. The sheriff told plaintiff and the neighbor that they had received several noise complaints prior to the neighbor's call and instructed plaintiff to find a way to get home. The sheriff did not offer to take plaintiff home, nor did he call for emergency services, including an ambulance, nor any offer to take plaintiff to the hospital, nor any offer to help plaintiff recover her clothes or effects from defendant Shane's residence. Remember when I said that the cops... So this cop didn't give a flying F that this lady apparently is dressed in an oversized t-shirt and then nothing, saying, I have just been violently gang raped. He's just saying, yeah, get home. The neighbor offered to let plaintiff sleep on his couch until she could figure out a way to get her possessions and get home, but plaintiff declined and only remained at the neighbor's residence for a short period of time once the sheriff left. She then went back to Shane's residence, where she found the door open and her clothes were readily accessible in his residence. Shane then emerged as if nothing had transpired and offered plaintiff to stay at his residence while she slept it off. Plaintiff asked for her purse and her keys, but defendant Shane told her she shouldn't leave in her condition, and plaintiff, catatonic and in a state of shock and disbelief of the events that transpired, stayed at Shane's home while Shane left the home. Later that morning, Shane returned to the residence and woke plaintiff up and finally gave her back her purse, cell phone, and keys, and she left Shane's residence. In a daze, plaintiff returned home and tried to make sense out of what had happened to her. On March 26, 2018, she contacted her primary care doctor and asked for an HIV and STD test in fear of possibly having contracted a disease from her violent rape. Plaintiff tried to continue her life as she felt she wouldn't be believed, as plaintiff already had told Contra Costa Sheriff's defendant Diddy raped her to no avail. Further, plaintiff was under the impression if she did continue to say Diddy's name in relation to her assault, she would not be believed and her family would be in danger. Seemingly mere days, maybe even the day before plaintiff's vicious rape, Shane had miraculously began driving a new car, almost as if he was being paid in advance to get her there. Plaintiff believed this was payment by Diddy for setting up plaintiff to be raped. A few weeks later, on April 2018, plaintiff, still in pain and reeling from the horrific assault, went to the hospital as her injuries had not subsided from the assault. The hospital conducted several tests on plaintiff, including a rape kit, ultrasound, and x-rays. Additionally, plaintiff was given IV fluids to stabilize her vitals as she was in severe weakened state from being unable to eat and losing substantial amounts of weight since the rape occurred. While at the hospital, plaintiff told members of her treatment team about her horrific assault, and they then contacted the Walnut Creek police, so a different police department. Yeah, Molly feels daddy isn't happy. Walnut Creek police showed up to plaintiff's hospital room and took a statement regarding her assault on March 23rd. Plaintiff had already told Costa Costa Sheriff about her rape and that it was defendant Diddy who orchestrated it on March 23, 2018, which was ignored. I think there's a mistake here again because... Oh, it's the day off. Sorry, it's me who reads it wrong. Plaintiff declined to refer to Diddy again to Walnut Creek Police because she believed she would be ignored by Walnut Creek Police just as she was by Contra Costa County Sheriff, and or would be further harmed by Diddy if it discovered she named him to police. Plaintiff only told Walnut Creek Police about the assault from Shane and Doe 2. Plaintiff believed her statement made to Walnut Creek Police while at the hospital was captured by police body cam footage. Plaintiff further believes her statements made to the Contra Costa Sheriff on March the 23rd, immediately after the vicious assault, where plaintiff named Diddy directly and by name was captured by body cam. Plaintiff also filed a report to the Orinda Police Department on April 17th, but again was too afraid to name Diddy as one of her assailants. During this report, plaintiff provided her clothing to the police from the night of the assault, but they only retained her underwear. To date, the underwear was never returned, and plaintiff believed no investigation ever commenced. So, 3 different police departments so far. Plaintiff sought assistance from therapists in May, one of which tried to have her therapy appointments covered by a victim's compensation fund, which was rejected because plaintiff was told no law enforcement agency had opened an active investigation into any of her many reports of her violent gang rape. Yeah. It seems like he gave her something in that glass of water Shane gave her, and that started to act. That's how I read it, because in the beginning she is just slightly in shock, and then she loses, but she probably goes into full shock at some point also. Booze, I'm sorry I didn't pay you all the attention in the world. I'm just reading about a lady who's been violently raped by a remote control, so I might not see chat because I'm reading on the screen as well. Subsequently, thereafter, plaintiff asked police for a copy of a report from the Walnut Creek Police Department. On July 19, plaintiff was provided with a letter from the Walnut Creek Police Department stating that it was unable to furnish the information as it is confidential and not subject to public release. How can she not get her own police report, despite plaintiff not being the public and the victim complainant? How can she not be given her own police reports? In March 2024, plaintiff was re-traumatized by all of the events surrounding defendant Diddy, including the several civil complaints filed against him, as well as the raid on Diddy's California and Florida residence. Plaintiff called Contra Costa Sheriff again in hopes of renewing her previous complaint and amending it to ensure Diddy's name was included. Plaintiff received no response from the sheriff. Plaintiff in July 24 then emailed the chief of sheriff's office regarding her complaint, lack of investigation, and how she was treated by the initial responding officer. Plaintiff then later received a callback from a detective, but then nothing further. Plaintiff then began seeking legal counsel for her claims, ultimately being referred to undersigned for representation. Undersigned counsel also attempted to get a copy of the 2018 police report from Costa's sheriff, but was told that they would not provide the report or any other information without a subpoena. And we thought that was only in Massachusetts that the police was inept, corrupt, and filled with bad people. I don't know if it's to be believed that that bodyguard was an undercover cop. I don't know. He could be a cop who's just moonlighting as a bodyguard. But This is the same thing. I think I said it this morning. It's the same thing we saw with Weinstein. Only one of the dominoes. It's the same thing we saw with the guy who owned an island. We never hear anyone else. It's just one guy who falls every time. The rest of it, business as usual. I bet you right now there is a young potential movie star paying for her chance to be in a movie, Weinstein Matter, in Hollywood right now. And nothing has happened in Hollywood. Nothing will happen in the music industry either. Diddy will take the fall, and it'll be it. Finally, someone has put her name on it and named other people around him. But sadly, the music business, the movie business, the modeling business, all prey on desperate people looking for fame. And they'll go far. And if you can get this far when you are kind of a thing, when you became a mega thing, you'll go this far. $1,000%. Yeah, so many are involved. You can't tell me no more than 5 people knew what happened at Diddy parties. We know some people have alluded to be careful to leave a Diddy party before it got too late and stuff like that. Everyone knew what Harvey Weinstein was doing. Everyone. Everyone still claps of Roman Polanski. Oh, he's a great director. Yeah, he's a effing kitty diddler. Jennifer O.D. from Canton cannot get a copy of a report from the police either. Still active investigation is the excuse. Well, as a party in it, she should be able to get it. It's stupid. Yeah, because they don't care. Because this will either be the good old, well, it's the Illuminati who made them do it. So we can just say, oh, it's all those underworld things who run everything. No, this is shitty people who do it because people are always telling them, yeah, do whatever you want. You are a star. Or we'll say, well, it's just Diddy. No. Or they'll play the card and said they can't stand to see a brother with success. We will see some kind of one of those excuses before long. And everything will go on as usual. It's funny how all of that beef that has been around Diddy, how many of these people don't want Diddy to sing? I know he's a rapper, but you understand what I mean. I just hope someone will sing and blow the lid off all of this. Because he's not the only one. His crew isn't the only crew. Right now, some potential Dua Lipa, Beyonce, Christina Aguilera, or even Justin Bieber is on their knees paying for the opportunity to have a mix album by someone. I will guarantee you. And it's not just America. It's here in Denmark as well. It's everywhere. And it won't change. Because they'll throw one to the sharks and the rest of them will be the sharks. Hey, Belinda. Probably not the best live to catch. Well, we have been through all the bad things right now. Everyone knew about Weinstein. It wasn't Brad Pitt. It wasn't Oprah. Everyone go look up when Rita Ora or whatever her name is from Britain was presented to Weinstein. She knew what was going to happen. But she wasn't the only one. All of these people know how the business run. If you want a job, you get on your knees. Aguilera. Yeah, I don't like them either. It's but I just don't like, because it's a system that enables them to do it. And we see it also in our little stupid world on the YouTubes. When people get enough fame, and I'm I'm kind of big in my little corner of the internet, but I know people who are way bigger than I am. So I'm not that famous now, so I think I can do whatever I want. But go look at some of the big YouTubers who became millionaires. What did they do as soon as they got there? They got a cadre of yes men, and then they started treating people badly. How many scandals have we had this year with YouTubers? And not even just stupid little YouTubers like us who gets in small beefs and start yelling at each other. Some of the big names, some of the really big names, have been either themselves been doing something shady or associated with people doing shady stuff. And it's exactly the same thing every time. You get enough clout, you start believing your hype, you surround yourself with people who say, as long as he is number one, my plate is filled with food. So I'm going to tell him you're number one so I can get everything. And like any bass player, the girls that the lead guitarist doesn't get, you can have. And it's the same all over. And I'm really sick of it. And maybe I'm getting too old and too crusty, but I really, really hate it because I now have to live with it's males who do. No, it's shitty people. It's people who should be yeeted into the sun. It has nothing to do with gender. It has all to do with no accountability taken from the people who enabled them to do all of this in the first place. Everyone washes their hands the second Diddy is caught. 3 police departments, if we can believe this woman, wash their hands, close their eyes. How many more? How many victims are we deal with low kind of criminals because as Sandra Birchmore trial, yes, it's big in our world because we follow it. Doesn't make any dent in the real world because people just go on with it. That's corruption. That's police covering for police. But this makes you sick to think how many other cases have people you paid, I paid, helped people in power cover stuff like this up. I'm getting crusty. Because people place people on pedestals who had no character whatsoever just because they lack or sound a certain way or look or sound a certain way, and God forbid you say anything bad about them, true or not. You can't say anything about these people because there's go out there and say, why should I'm going to get political right now. Whenever either side bring out some kind of vapid pop star or country star or whatever and say I'm going to vote for this, why should I listen to someone who is 36 years old, can't keep a man, and only have songs about how she's shitty at relationships? What makes her a guiding light in my? Why isn't it the guy who gets up in the morning with his wife, take care of the 2 kids, go to work, are the backbone of the country? No, let's listen to some country music star who when he was 35 found out it's probably not good to constantly huff coke off the titlets of hookers. Oh yeah, you're a good guiding light. That's the problem with fan culture. And I know I'm part of it because I'm a YouTuber. But it's shitty. That's why I know I'll never be big because I'm too honest. And I can't dance, so I can't be a TikToker. Yeah. What about all the female enablers who got their friends to come over, who said, "Oh, it's okay, he never does anything," who went to them afterwards and and gave them money? I don't know. Well, fortune also gives you. We see it all the time. That's why I'm saying when I was just talking with my gym buddy about it today, and she said, "Oh," and I said, "My dream is to be so successful on YouTube. I could have a drug habit. I won't have it because I don't really understand drugs. But imagine being so rich that you could have a drug habit." What about Weinstein's personal assistant? She must have known. She said of his meetings, now she gets to make $180,000 Star Wars series that bombed. Funny how that works. Funny how you can always get all of these crappy movies through Hollywood. At least back in the 80s with Canon movie, we know it was drug money being laundered. How can Marvel movies lose this amount of money all the time? I don't know. I can't. I have to pay taxes of what I make on this one, and I'm doing good for my level of YouTube. Thank you all so very much. But I can't take a month off and say, well, everything's fine. Everything, but they can lose billions. Funny how it happens. Can't even afford to have an eating habit. No. This is just case law. Why he is the guy who has to pay for it. Boom, boom, boom. And all of the things that they believe. Defendant Diddy and the Diddy sexual abuse and cover up enterprise created and perpetuated a toxic culture. Diddy to abused Flores. Diddy had extensive power and influence over others due to his. It's just what they had in the beginning. He had the means and access. Diddy at all times was a mogul and billionaire who cultivated a relationship with some of the most influential individuals through his highly sought after parties. Exactly. Diddy had control. Diddy controlled who did what, when, and how within his circle of friends and employees, including KK, Shane, and those 1, 2, 3. If the defendant fails to comply with covering up defendant's Diddy's sexual abuse and assault, they would be terminated, blackballed, or find themselves in legal trouble. Diddy had power. Plaintiff attempted to report that it was in fact Diddy who assaulted her, but instead was met with disregard by the Contra Costa. I don't know why I can't say that. Diddy and the Diddy's sexual abuse and cover-up enterprise were designed to manipulate, control, sexually assault, and prevent individuals from coming forward. KK, Shane, and Doe's knowingly benefited from the Diddy sexual abuse and cover-up enterprise as they retained employment benefits and other monetary beliefs. Specifically, defendant Shane mysteriously had a brand new car upon information and belief provided to him by Diddy. KK, Shane, and Doe's willfully ignored the dangers of Diddy's conduct and pattern of harassment, sexual assault, abuse, and misconduct solely for their own personal economic beliefs. Plaintiff report to police were ignored. Others who complained about Diddy's egregious behavior was ignored until Cassie Ventura sued Diddy. Since Ms. Ventura's bravery, countless individuals has come forward and filed complaints regarding sexual abuse at the hands of Diddy. The chorus of victims and evidence obtained by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York ultimately led to Diddy being indicted. They made him able to continue. Diddy was aided and abetted by his network. It's just to show that all of them are being sued. She's been, yeah, and that's why they claim it's racketeering, so they can get them under RICO. Violations of racketeering. Plaintiffs incorporated by reference and alleged each of the preceding paragraphs and all paragraphs below. Each defendant agreed to commit the substantive racketeering offense through agreeing to participate in racketeering acts. Each enterprise member agreed to commit the substantive racketeering. Again, it's just they were a part of it. And this is sexual battery. We read what happened. Yes. Sexual assault. Yes. Sexual harassment. Battery. Yes. Assault. Yes. Negligent failure to warn, negligent supervision and retention. There's a lot of charges here, but again, it's just a reiteration that they should have helped her, they should have stopped him. So I'm not going to read all of it. Negligent infliction of emotional distress, unjust enrichment, aiding and abetting. It's going to be interesting, especially when they get to all of these helpers. How many of them will then start singing to get out of it? That's normally how you get them. You don't get number one, you don't get number two, but you get number 3 and number 6 and number 7, and then you build up a case and have them out there. Is it just the rest of it? I think it's just all the charges. 18th. 19th, false imprisonment. And they want relief and demand for a jury trial. Sean Perez, Esquire, Ariel Mitchell, Esquire, attorneys for plaintiff. So again, another horrific story. This one, way more details than the 6 I read this morning. And this one, there was some of it that kind of, I had a little, the backyard thing, why not get away to begin with? There was a little, that was the only part I thought was a little bit, I didn't really know where they were going with that one. But doctor visits, missing police reports. The doctor visit should be, she should be able to document those. The police, well, now all of this is coming down. Will the police acknowledge at least that they talked to her? Maybe they said, well, we didn't find it believable at the time. She's a known something. That's why we didn't find her believable. I don't know. But at least the doctor's visit should be able to be produced as evidence that she went to the hospital. She talked to medical professionals about what she claims happened. That's a little bit more than the ones we read this morning, where none of them really did anything after or talked to anyone after. So I think there's a little more to it in this one. Hey, Bradley McKay. Thank you. Yeah, please do. It's an industry that destroys people and spits out hopeless, broke people unless they help run an evil industry. Yes, and you'll see this all the time. I was watching something and I saw something with Ted Danson. I thought, I haven't seen him in a movie since the 80s. And he was the biggest star back then. And that's how it goes. There's always a new one. And imagine being one of, I don't know how many move to Hollywood every day. 1,000 people going to chase the dream, 10,000. And someone says, just get on your knees. Would you do it? If you're that desperate, if you want to be that big of a star? I know it's a moral conundrum to have. I've whiffed out more times in my life, especially my political career. I didn't want to kiss the ring, so I lost my career in politics because I said, nope, I won't do that. I got elected for something and I want to fight for it. And it cost me my position because I didn't play ball. Have I met people who played ball, who went in there all gung ho about what they wanted to change? And as soon as they got close to the brass ring, all the excuses were there. Well, we just need to retain power so we can change it next year. Well, if we just get elected to this thing, then we can change everything. And now, 20 years later, they're still there. I'm here. And I can look myself in the eyes every morning because I didn't sell out. I'm not sure all of my old friends can do that. Well, Helena, you missed a horrible story today. Known EDP, extremely deranged person. No, I'm 27 years old. That's why they call LA the city of failure. Yeah, because for every Jennifer Lawrence, for every Chris Rock, for every Ryan Reynolds, that's 10,000 people who are living in the backseat of a car, waiting tables, hoping for just tomorrow. Just tomorrow. Probably some of them were even more talented, but they just didn't get the right break. And maybe they got the right break and they didn't want to play ball. We never know. Not that I'm saying that any of the people, well, Jennifer Lawrence, we know, but the rest of them, I don't know whatever they did. They seem like cool people, but I'm not famous. I've never hung out with famous people. Again, I'm big in a small pond on YouTube, but YouTube is different. I don't get invited to parties, but I've been in politics. I've been at a decent level in politics because I ran the local part of our chapter. So I went to all the meetings with the big guys. Got elected for local office for some years. Trust me, all of these holier than thou people who will tell you how to live your life, most of them are shitty people who just want power. Well, I don't have, well, no, I just want to be able to. I have had those mornings where I woke up and my stomach hurt and I didn't want to open my inbox and I didn't want to look myself in the eyes. And when I got to that point, I said I would rather be known as a traitor to my party who ran away from trouble or whatever they will call me than live with this, because I can't lie to myself. I can lie to a lot of other people's. Trust me, I'm divorced. But when you lie to yourself, you die inside. It's all about what you're willing to sacrifice morally. Yeah, because talent isn't really deciding for who gets to make it big. There are way better singers than, I don't know, who's the biggest famous. Oh, Taylor can sing a bit, but Megan Three Stallion, whatever. No, she's doing OnlyFans now, I think. So yeah, yeah. When you have to get your anti-acid pills before you open your inbox, that's when you need to change. Yeah, Eagles make good music. Want to come to my? I don't know where you live, so it's going to be a little hard to plan. And I'm covering the Sarah Boone case. Is Sarah Boone invited? I agree, Shax. I'm elected in my local politics, but we are so far friendly and work well together. My problem was people were way too friendly because we were in 8 different parties in our city council, and everyone was just saying, let's just smear everything from the furthest left to the furthest right. Everything's just okay. Everyone needs to be in a compromise. And I said, that's not what I got elected for. I got elected for people who wanted change. We had 100 years of social democrat rule in my city. Then we got a liberal mayor, and liberal in Danish sense means like you would probably call it like a left wing of the Republican. That's our right wing parties. And I said, that's why are we just doing the same as the Social Democrats did? Then we'll just give them power back. We are constructive. F you. Sarah Boone will be endorsing Samsonite travel-sized, well, Jorge-sized traveling. But another crazy lawsuit. Let's see if I have enough material to do another stream at midnight like yesterday. Molly and I will now go enjoy a little lay down. She has been sighing in the background because Daddy won't watch TV with me. And if not before, I'll see you tomorrow for the Sarah Boone at, I believe, 1 o'clock, but I'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully you do too. Turn on your notification, join the Discord. You know all the YouTube words I'm supposed to say. Other than that, nothing more than drop a muffin wherever I send you and say, Baker sent me.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No,
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
no,
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
probably did. Everybody has.